Something is up, something is wrong, especially in America's biggest city, specifically talking about New York City, where last night organized groups of opportunists came with big bags and started looting all the major stores in New York City as the NYPD stood down. Yes, this photo that you're seeing right now are officers with their hands in their pockets, twiddling their thumbs, standing down, as just earlier, when faced with peaceful protesters that were keeping their hands up, again, keeping their hands up, mostly peaceful protesters, they engaged like wild animals, attacking them viciously. Looters? No, they're just going to be standing back on the same street where major crimes were going on. This is something that a lot of people should be aware of. There's something up here, especially in New York City, where we have a police department that has a yearly budget of $6 billion. Would it be? Not M. No, would it be? I'm not making any mistake here. $6 billion budget. They have more officers than most countries have than soldiers. They have a highly militarized rapid reaction SWAT capabilities with intelligence capabilities on par with the CIA, and they just stand around the corner as people are losing their livelihoods. This insanity has been unfolding here in New York, as of course a lot of insanity has been unfolding all over the country. And to talk about that plus a lot more, we have Josh Friedman, who of course works with us very closely here at We Are Change behind the scenes. He is also an independent journalist, and we are going to be talking to him about specifically what is happening on the other side of the coast in Los Angeles. Josh, you've been doing on the ground live stream reporting everything that you're seeing there. You were attacked a couple of nights ago. You were bloodied up. You were robbed. You still came back out there. You're seeing everything that's happening there. Before we get into the altercations that you were involved in, what are you seeing on the ground in Los Angeles?
All right, Luke, I'm seeing mass protests, but likewise mass rioting and mass looting and buildings on fire and fires being set all over the city. And it's really spread beyond Los Angeles. It's spread, well, I mean, you know what's going on all around the country, but in the LA area, it's spread into Santa Monica, it's spread into Long Beach. Yesterday, I was in Santa Monica where looters, there were protesters early on, and then after that, looters had taken basically complete control of the city. Not the entire city, but they had completely overrun a large portion of the business district, and they had free reign. And there was similar stuff going on in Long Beach. Downtown Los Angeles seems a little bit like a war zone. I've been in downtown LA each of the past 4 nights. Finally, the National Guard arrived yesterday, and last night someone was shot to death in LA, downtown LA. I don't know if there was any connection between that and the looting that was going on there. I was beaten Saturday night. I was beaten and robbed Saturday night in downtown LA. There have been major issues around the city, and what I saw was the worst of what I saw was actually in none of those locations. It was in Los Angeles' Fairfax district, where on Saturday there was a very large protest that then turned into rampant looting of dozens and dozens of businesses that I watched with my own very eyes, as well as fires all over the place. Sometimes 4 fires on 2 blocks with multiple businesses on fire. And I saw firefighters driving past fire to go to another fire. I probably saw that multiple times. Just utter chaos in LA over the weekend.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what you see was just as egregious in New York, where literally on the same street, police officers are standing by as not protesters, opportunists. I mean, these people were ready. They came out with vehicles. They came out with big bags. They were professional robbers that were just taking advantage of all the businesses. Was it as egregious in New York, where you had police officers literally standing on the same block watching this happen, attacking peaceful protesters? How was the policing? That's what I really want to ask you. Was it egregious? Was it aggressive? Or was it just totally not there, like in some places around the country?
I think the Los Angeles Police Department has taken a much more proactive, I would call that, and aggressive approach approach to, not necessarily proactive in a good way, but proactive nonetheless, and an aggressive approach to policing this. So I've been covering the first incident occurred on Wednesday night when I believe a couple CHP, those are California Highway Patrol cars, were attacked when protesters stormed the 101 freeway in Los Angeles. But since then, starting Thursday night, and I was downtown Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, and I would not say whatsoever that LAPD stood down. Way back on Thursday night, before action had really gotten bad in many cities around the country, LAPD declared an unlawful assembly and shut down the protest before it could have grown into something more. But then on Saturday, when there was the mass looting going on in the Fairfax district, I really wouldn't question. I mean, I didn't see any evidence that LAPD was standing down. There was so much for them to do, but there was one point when I was at a shoe store that I'd never seen more looters arrive in the span of about 20 or 30 minutes at a single store as that one. And there was a police line about 1 or 2 blocks away, actually just 1 block away, as literally I recorded hundreds of looters pouring into this one shoe store, cars driving up, people getting out, loading stuff into the cars, driving away, as there was a police line 1 block away. But I'm not really going to question LAPD's tactics with regard to that lone incident, given I don't know what other circumstances were going on, because in Fairfax at that time there were fires everywhere, there were businesses being looted everywhere, there's violence breaking out, there were clashes, plenty of clashes throughout the day in that district between police and protesters, some of which I filmed. Lots of stuff being hurled at the police. And likewise, you asked, the policing has been very aggressive. So from my personal experience, I was threatened with arrest a bunch of times by police. I've had them point guns at me a bunch of times in an aggressive manner. One night when I was downtown in LA, I drove into the police blockade accidentally, and a bunch of officers pointed their guns directly at my windshield and started screaming at me to drive away and pointing the opposite direction, which was reverse. Basically,
You mean drove? You mean not drove into them? You mean drive near their location?
Yeah, I drove. I didn't crash into them. I drove, because what happens is these blockades get set up all around downtown, all around the city, and it becomes very hard for drivers to navigate. Very often, there are drivers caught in the mess, trapped in between police blockades, and sometimes with people throwing stuff.
So yeah, obviously a very complicated situation, not only unfolding where you are, but unfolding everywhere else. I'm pulling up the video right now that you titled "Alive," and this is where you're walking down after being bloodied, after being robbed. What happened there? Was it because there's a big debate also happening online whether this is Black Lives Matter, whether this is just criminals, opportunists, whether this is just Antifa. There's bricks showing up on random parade routes and protest routes. So there's a lot of other questions out there. So all the details matter. But when you were attacked for live streaming on your own channel, what happened?
This was Saturday night after I finished up in the Fairfax district, which was the focal point of my coverage. I was streaming there for more than 4 hours on Saturday. After that, I went downtown, and I had heard that there was police action around the southern end of downtown, and that's where I went. And I was planning on initially heading to a place where police were supposedly rounding up looters or in some clash with some people in the area. And on my way there, I stumbled upon rampant looting of multiple stores. And I started filming the rampant looting at it was a CVS pharmacy in downtown LA. And simultaneously, there was looting across the street at a Rite Aid pharmacy. And as I was in between the two pharmacies, filming. Someone started screaming out, "Snitch," or "He's filming you." And I tried walking away. Then, as people started enclosing on me, I started screaming out, "I'm press." You can hear in the video. And a gang of men, young men, I think, just all encircled me and jumped me and started beating me and kicking me all over my body.
Yeah, I got the video pulled up here. Is that 6 minute and 57 second clip?
I think so.
Yeah, that's the
I
short
mean,
clip that you released. I'm playing the video there right now, just so the audience could also, of course, see everything that transpired as well. But so many journalists are just being attacked left and right, not just by criminals, not just by looters, not just by rioters, but also by the police officers that are also targeting targeting journalists, targeting individuals that are trying to tell the world the truth. And again, journalists are essential right now, and that's why I've been urging people, if you see a journalist get attacked, help them out, support them, prevent them from getting damaged, because they are your eyes and ears. You're doing something that's very, very important here, and we need more people out there documenting all of this, because you do put yourself at a risk, not only against criminals, but also police officers that, again, very tense situation. We pretty much are seeing urban warfare. How are you seeing this unfolding from here? How do you see this kind of going from what you're seeing on the ground?
well, first, Luke, I'd like to say that I really appreciate you sticking up for me when, I'm not really getting any attention from other media on this matter. Maybe some other media tweeted it out or shared it on Facebook. I mean, the post about what happened to me. And granted, I understand that there are much bigger issues at play, and I'm choosing to put myself in a very risky situation, but we're also being of service to the viewers. We're being of service to the community at large. And it would be appreciated if smaller media like ourselves do have some support, because I see the news cameras with the TV news standing and filming with their big cameras, filming looting going on, and they're essentially a protected class.
Well, they
Not
also have
not
a bunch of security guards with them.
Yeah,
So,
so meanwhile, I'm getting it from both sides. I'm getting it from the police and the looters. Last night, I barely made it out of downtown LA without getting arrested, and I barely made it out of Santa Monica without getting beaten by looters yesterday, Sunday during the day. So I mean, it's a very risky situation, and I'm not portraying myself. I don't mean to portray myself as a victim. I just want to say that I really appreciate whoever can help us out and give us the support and the protection we need, because I'm literally putting my body on the line out there. But with regard to where it's going from here, there was a dramatic shift in the atmosphere last night in downtown after the National Guard came in. So unfortunately, I missed the protest on right outside LA City Hall last night. There was a protest. I didn't get over there in time from Santa Monica, and the protesters had already been cleared out. But right now in downtown LA, there is the National Guard, there's LAPD, police departments, parts of police departments from other places in the state have been called in. LA sheriff's out there. So the force in the downtown area is much stronger than it was before, and pretty soon they might be able to overwhelm protesters and looters or other troublemakers, unlike in previous days. I also drove around town and started seeing a bunch of businesses being boarded up. I drove through Hollywood, which hasn't really been hit, and started seeing businesses boarding up there. There's the curfew in effect. Granted, a lot of people were violating it, but simultaneously, as I drove around LA last night, it seemed eerily dead, except for major streets with some traffic and just huge law enforcement presence. So we'll see. I mean, I've heard talk that the protests are going to continue. I don't think that this situation is has completely cooled down by any means, but the law enforcement side is much more organized and has much more force right now than it did the past couple days.
Now, there's been a lot of accusations against some police departments for agitating and creating more violence, specifically being accused of going after innocent protesters that are not doing anything, while agitators that are doing most of the violence, most of the destruction, they're just left alone. Meanwhile, people are getting shot up for standing by there with their arms up. Have you seen anything like that from your experiences on the ground?
I have seen rubber bullets fired into crowds of protesters repeatedly. Usually, there are certain agitators in the crowd at that point who are throwing stuff like water bottles, maybe even glass bottles at police. I did, at one point on Saturday night in the Fairfax district, see a man gets shot, who I then interviewed. He said he was shot twice by rubber bullets at very close range. I saw that, and I don't believe there really were any agitators in that crowd. There were police pushing people away from a fire at that point. I have filmed one agitator in Fairfax Saturday afternoon. Now, I have absolutely no proof that this guy has any connection to the police or that the police might be letting him do this. I don't even really have any suspicion or any reason to suspect that might be the case. I just found it noteworthy that I did manage to film one agitator. It was a man who was wearing blue pants, a white shirt, a very colorful hat, and a face mask that also had some design or color on it as well. So he had a very colorful outfit. He was very noticeable, and I saw him walking right along the police line when there was a huge clash between police and protesters in Fairfax Saturday afternoon. And then right after that, I saw him go over to a large Whole Foods that was boarded up at the time, and he started smashing windows and ripping the boarding off. And he, along with some help from others, although he led the charge and he was the first one in there, he managed to lead a major break-in into this Whole Foods in Fairfax. And then there was rampant looting until the police line enclosed on there and drove people off.
Yeah, I definitely think something is up here. I think we have to question everything, especially when we have literally UFC fighters like John Jones walking the streets and preventing businesses and property from being destroyed. I mean, I'm playing the video right now of John Jones doing this again. We have to look into what's going on. I'm going to do another extensive video into some of the bigger things, this kind of recipe for disaster that America is in right now. But thank you so much for sharing your perspective. It's a dangerous situation that you're in. Be extremely careful. As I've been telling you, man, like, hey, safety first, no matter what. Anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to tell the people out there? Anything else a part of this story that they deserve to hear from your reporting?
I have gotten the question posed to me about, do I see bricks in the streets, and because I know there are reports of that around the country. I haven't seen any of that. I did film one person in Fairfax on Saturday afternoon who seemed to be somewhat of an instigator in multiple locations. He was the one who led the vandalism, the break-in, and the looting of a Whole Foods there. But I don't really have any information about him beyond that. So what I'm doing is I'm documenting. If some suspicious stuff comes up, then okay, maybe I'll have something to go off of. But I'm out here documenting as much as I can and trying to film the protesters, trying to film the police, trying to film the National Guard now, the looters, everything. I'm just out here to document, and I appreciate everyone who's been very helpful in guiding me in different directions. I've had very helpful commenters who've been guiding me to the hot spots and whatnot. And I just appreciate how this is, in a way, a community reporting job. And thank you very much, Luke, for having me on as well.
Well, thank you for doing everything that you're doing right now, especially during this critical time, as of course people are being polarized. People are being divided and conquered. It's not as black and white as people try to make it out to be. We need real, unfiltered live streams of exactly what's happening that is not editorialized. We can't have the mainstream media selecting and picking whatever side they want to promote because, again, the truth here has just completely gone out the door. We need to pay attention to all the aspects, all the details to make sure that this situation that already is spiraling out of control doesn't spiral totally out of control. And some people would even argue that's already happened. What do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for supporting, watching, and being here with independent media. There's a lot of forces against us. There's a lot of dangers that, of course, people face just for even speaking out right now. YouTube is, of course, downranking and censoring even just the basic commentary about this. So the only thing keeping us going is you sharing this video, getting it out there. For the few people that are doing this, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.